Hello and welcome to the next episode of From Life to Death with Jeff Everon. Today we're going to be talking about depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and other issues that a lot of us struggle with. The first part of the video, I'm going to be reading off a teleprompter because there's a lot of technical information that I was not going to remember right off the bat. So I hope you'll bear with me for this first part. I think you might find it interesting. As the title of the video suggests, if you have mental health issues or deal with substance abuse, you didn't deserve those stimulus checks, and here's why. The U.S. government sent $804 billion directly to low and middle income individuals and families during the pandemic. 21% of those adults experienced mental illness. This represents 1 in 5 adults. So in a letter to Congress, mental health organizations estimated that $38.5 billion was needed to save treatment providers and clinics struggling to stay afloat amid the pandemic. An additional $10 billion more was needed to respond to the pandemic alone. Interesting fact, across the U.S. economy, serious mental illness causes $193.2 billion lost in earnings each year. So, how much actually went into helping mental health and substance abuse resources? Only $2.5 billion in funding went to address the nation's mental illness and addiction crisis. So here's the reason you didn't deserve those checks and what I believe you did actually deserve. Instead of receiving a stimulus, $168 billion could have gone into mental health resources. Compare that to the $2.5 billion that actually did. Imagine the impact that could have had on the country's mental health crisis. It could have helped prevent suicides, depression, substance abuse, and many other critical mental health challenges. So tell me, would you have given up those stimulus checks to have better resources and treatment for your mental health and substance abuse challenges? Comment down below and let me know. Now, before anyone goes into whether or not it's the government's responsibility to pay for mental health issues, I'm only pointing out that this money has already been allocated to the American people, and I'm only sharing what we could have done instead. I'll post links to all these stats down below if you'd like to do your own research. So let's talk about some of these mental health issues that many of us struggle with. Anxiety and depression are the two largest mental health issues that people will deal with. And I am one of those people. Most of my life, I've dealt with anxiety and depression. Depression, I started to understand a little bit when I was younger, but really didn't have much of a concept of it. Anxiety, I didn't even know what that was. I really had no clue what was going on with me most of the time, or why I was feeling the way I was in these situations. Most of the time I was in a social setting or a social situation. I had this overwhelming feeling and I really didn't want to be there. I tried. I really tried most of the time, but it was difficult being in these places, going through whether it was a job interview, whether it was a party, whether it was something that my parents or friends or family wanted me to attend. All these situations really caused me, to deal with a lot of anxiety. And the depression, I don't even know where it came from. I definitely dealt with some things when I was younger. I had some hardships that I struggled with when I was a little kid, like a lot of us have. And I don't know if those necessarily were the main cause. I think a lot of it for me was not being able to deal with some of these issues, not understanding what was going on, and not having those tools and resources to work through some of that stuff. So what I want to talk about is some of these issues and, maybe how to start to work through them. Obviously, the first thing that people are going to tell you is get outdoors, get some exercise, get some fresh air. And yes, those things will absolutely work. But as you and I both know, getting from that bed to the outdoors to actually go and do something is the toughest challenge. So How do we get there? What do we do? There are a lot of great resources out there. There are therapists, there are doctors, there are medication, there are a ton of YouTube videos and other places that you can learn, to work through some of these challenges. But a lot of it comes down to what we talked about in my first video, and that's creating these habits. When we're kind of blinded by this depression, when we're blinded by this anxiety, that's when we need these small mental cues to kick in to say, I know I don't feel like this, but I know it's something that I need to do. So creating those habits needs to start when we're actually in a good place. And that in itself is another difficult aspect, because when we're feeling good, we're feeling good. We want to go out and do the things that we want to do. We don't want to sit there and work on ourselves. Or we already went through these horrible times, and we know that they're going to happen again. So we'll just deal with them then. But being a little bit proactive, putting things into place for the future can really make a big difference. So one of the things that I like to do is when I'm laying in bed in the morning and I don't want to get up, I give myself a little goal, just a tiny goal. And I do the same thing with working out. Most of the time, I don't want to go work out. So I'll tell myself, I've just got to do one sit up and that's it. That's it. One sit up and I'm done. I'll tell myself something like, all I've got to do is get up and go make my coffee. That's it. I can get up and make my coffee and go sit in the chair downstairs. Typically, when I get up to go make my coffee, that's going to, start to get the blood flowing a little bit and start to get me moving in the right direction. So from that point, maybe my goal is to take a walk, and get outside and get that fresh air. Maybe I'll say, you know what? I'm just going to put my shoes on. I'm just going to step out the back door where nobody can see me, and I'm going to look around the neighborhood, and that's it. Then I can come back inside. Well, 9 times out of 10, by the time I get my shoes on, by the time I do all this and get outside, I'm willing to maybe go a little bit further. So I've got a park near my house. A lot of times I'll get my shoes on, I'll get my jacket on. If it's cold out, I'll get ready to go outside just to stand on the back porch. And by the time I'm out there, my brain goes, you know what? You're already out here. You know if this is going to help you, you might as well do it. So that's just one little aspect that you can that you can work with when dealing with depression and not being able to change. And that can apply to a lot of situations. That can apply to going through a breakup. That can apply to going through, work issues. That can apply to just not feeling well in general. So finding these tools and building this toolkit, it's almost like you're going to be carrying around a toolbox with you wherever you go. Having these little tools and gaining more tools can help you overcome these issues that you deal with every day. Working through depression and anxiety is never fun. It's not, it's not something that anyone ever wants to go through. It's definitely a challenge. And I feel for you because I know what it's like. But I also know that you don't want to deal with these things, that you want to change some of the patterns you've had for most of your life and find a way to work through some of these. So please, stick with me through a lot of these videos. I'm going to be talking about many different topics, not just mental health issues. We're going to be talking about fun things. We're going to be talking about some of the hobbies that I like to do and hopefully you like to do as well. We can talk about music. We can talk about marketing. We can talk about financial freedom, starting to make some investments and things like that. And what I want the purpose of all this to be is just to get started, because that's the key to a lot of this. We just have to get started on some of these things. And once we do, the sky's the limit. We want to keep going once we get started. When you make that to-do list, don't just write down the item that you want to do. Write down the item and then also write down the first step or first few steps and how to get started in doing that item. Okay? Just give it a try, see how it works out for you. I hope these tips help, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember that people care about you, people love you, and you deserve to be happy like everyone else.